Dr. Marcus Webb rubbed his bloodshot eyes and stared at the screen again, hoping the results would somehow change. They didn't. Another file corrupted. Another record gone. Another piece of humanity's story dissolved into meaningless static. This doesn't make sense, he muttered, pulling up another archive. The small research station on Colony Terrace 9 hummed quietly around him, 4 to 7 souls living on the edge of charted space, doing the boring work of cataloging and preserving human history. Or at least, they had been. Marcus opened the file labeled Earth, Ancient Conflicts, 20th Century. Empty. He tried another, Human Art, Renaissance Period. Nothing but scrambled code. His hands trembled as he navigated deeper into the database. Literature, science, philosophy, music, all of it fragmenting before his eyes like sand slipping through desperate fingers. Marcus, you need to see this. The voice belonged to Yuki Tanaka, the colony's communications officer. She stood in the doorway, her normally calm face twisted with confusion. I'm a bit busy watching our entire species disappear from the historical record, Marcus replied, not looking up. That's just it. It's not just us. I've been monitoring transmissions from other colonies, Prometheus Station, New Vancouver, the Kepler settlements. They're all reporting the same thing. Every human archive, everywhere, simultaneously corrupting. Marcus finally turned to face her. Simultaneously? That's impossible. These systems aren't even connected. Different networks, different protocols, some are completely isolated. I know what I'm seeing, Yuki insisted. And there's something else. People are having dreams. Dreams? Strange ones. Vivid. My daughter woke up last night crying about trenches and mud and poison gas. She's 8 years old, Marcus. She shouldn't even know what World War I was, and now that I've checked the archives, the records of it are gone anyway. A chill crawled down Marcus's spine. He pulled up the colony census. 4 to 7 people. He accessed the medical logs. In the past 3 nights, 39 colonists had reported unusually intense dreams. Warriors in ancient armor. Scientists in laboratories. Explorers crossing frozen wastelands. Cities burning. Symphonies playing. Children laughing in languages no one spoke anymore. His console beeped. Another message, this time from the colony administrator, Vincent Hayes. Emergency meeting. Recreation hall. Now. Everyone. The recreation hall was chaos when Marcus arrived. Colonists argued, some cried, others stood in stunned silence. Vincent Hayes, a former military officer who'd retired to the quiet life of colonial administration, stood on a small platform trying to restore order. Listen. Everyone, please. Vincent's parade ground voice cut through the noise. I need information before I can provide answers. How many of you have experienced these memories that aren't yours? Nearly every hand rose. And the archives. Vincent looked directly at Marcus. 97% corrupted or missing, Marcus reported. Earth history, colony records, cultural databases, it's all vanishing. Not decaying, Vincent. Being systematically erased. Erased by who? Someone shouted from the crowd. That's what we need to. Vincent stopped mid-sentence, his face going pale. Others around the room gasped, staggered, grabbed their heads. Marcus felt it too. A surge, like electricity through his nervous system. Not painful, but overwhelming. Images flooded his mind, not his memories, but older ones. Deeper ones. DNA deep. He saw hands painting on cave walls. Heard drums echoing across savannas. Felt the cold metal of a spacecraft control panel under fingers that weren't his. Tasted blood and victory and ash and hope, all tangled together in a tapestry stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. When the wave passed, Marcus found himself on his knees. Around him, colonists were slowly rising, helping each other up. But their eyes, something had changed in everyone's eyes. A recognition. An understanding. Yuki's voice was barely a whisper. They tried to erase us. Vincent's military bearing returned, but now it was wrapped in something harder, something ancient. Not tried. They thought they succeeded. He looked around the room at faces that had transformed from confused civilians into something else. Something awakened. Get me a line to every human settlement you can reach, Vincent ordered. And someone find out who did this to us. Marcus returned to his terminal, but he wasn't looking at corrupted files anymore. He was searching for signal patterns, communications anomalies, anything that might reveal the hand behind humanity's erasure. And as he worked, one thought echoed through his mind with absolute clarity. a thought he somehow knew was being shared across light years by every human consciousness simultaneously. They will learn that some things cannot be forgotten. Sienna Cross had never believed in destiny. As a mining engineer on the remote asteroid station Broken Ridge, she believed in titanium yields, structural integrity, and the hard mathematics of survival. But when the dreams came, they brought something that shattered her practical worldview: purpose. She stood in the observation deck, watching her crew work the excavation site below. 32 miners, all experiencing the same phenomenon. They moved differently now, with an unconscious coordination that hadn't existed a week ago. As if ancient instincts were rewiring their nervous systems. "Sienna, we've got another one." Her deputy, Ramon Gutierrez, approached with a data pad. "Colony ship Wanderer's Hope, out near the Tau sector. Same story, complete historical erasure, genetic memories activating. They're asking if we've made contact with whoever did this." "Have we?" Sienna asked, though she already knew the answer. "The tech team found something. You're not going to like it." They descended into the station's makeshift operations center, a converted storage bay now filled with scavenged communications equipment. A young technician named Phoebe Reeves looked up from her screens, exhaustion and fury competing in her expression. "I traced the erasure signature," Phoebe said. "It's not a virus or a malfunction. It's deliberate, coordinated, and it came from a quantum network that shouldn't exist. Someone built a device capable of targeting human-generated data across the entire galaxy simultaneously." "That's impossible," Ramon said. "The processing power alone." "Unless you're not human," Sienna interrupted quietly. The pieces were falling into place in her mind, aided by memories that felt both foreign and intimately familiar. "Show me the source coordinates." Phoebe pulled up a star map. A sector marked only as Concordat space glowed red. The Concordat, Sienna breathed. She'd heard of them, a coalition of older species who maintained strict neutrality with human settlements. Or so everyone had believed. Her console chimed. An incoming transmission, but not through normal channels. This was something else, a quantum entanglement link that shouldn't have been possible with their equipment. When Sienna accepted it, dozens of faces appeared on the screen. Colony administrators, ship captains, station commanders. All human. All awakened. A grizzled woman spoke first. "I'm Captain Okoye of the freighter Perseverance. We've all been comparing notes. The Concordat didn't just erase our databases. They deleted every monument, every museum, every physical record of human civilization. We sent scouts to Earth. The ruins are sanitized. Like we never existed. They tried to remove us from the universe's memory," another voice added, a man from New Jakarta Station. "But they didn't understand what they were dealing with." Sienna felt it then, the collective rage building across the transmission, across light years, across every human heart simultaneously. Not the hot anger of a moment, but the cold, patient fury of a species that had clawed its way from caves to stars and would not be erased. "We need to coordinate," Sienna heard herself say, surprised by the authority in her voice. They thought they were dealing with scattered, dependent colonies. They're about to learn differently. Over the next 72 hours, something unprecedented happened. Without central command, without formal government, without even complete understanding of how they were doing it, humanity began to organize. The genetic memories that had awakened provided more than just historical knowledge. They carried the collective wisdom of survival, warfare, diplomacy, and adaptation encoded in human DNA. Sienna found herself at the center of it, not because she sought leadership but because others recognized something in her. That practical, unbreakable determination that had kept humans alive through ice ages and plagues and wars and exodus to the stars. "We've located 17 Concordat observation posts in neutral space," Ramon reported during one of their planning sessions. "They've been watching us for decades. Studying us. Deciding we were too dangerous to be remembered." "How many ships do we have?" Sienna asked. Phoebe pulled up a tally. "Across all settlements we've contacted? Maybe 300 vessels. Most are cargo haulers, mining ships, colony transports. Not exactly a war fleet." "Humans have never had the luxury of proper equipment," Sienna replied, memories of countless underdog victories flickering through her consciousness. "We've always made do. What matters is that we have 300 ships and they think we have 0. Surprise is our greatest weapon." That night, Sienna stood alone in the observation deck again, but she wasn't alone in her mind. She could feel them, millions of humans across the darkness, all connected through something deeper than technology. Shared trauma. Shared memory. Shared purpose. Her communicator buzzed. It was Vincent Hayes from Terrace 9, the colony that had first documented the erasure. We've received a response from the Concordat. They're demanding we cease our aggressive communications and submit to re-education about galactic civilization. Sienna almost laughed. Re-education. They erase our entire history and now want to teach us how to behave. What do we tell them? Vincent asked. Sienna thought of every human who had ever been underestimated, dismissed, erased. She thought of the cave painters and the star sailors, the warriors and the poets, the billions who had lived and loved and fought and built a civilization worth remembering, a civilization that someone had decided was too flawed to exist in galactic memory. Tell them nothing, she said. Let them wonder. Let them wait. Let them realize, slowly, what they've awakened. In her mind's eye, she saw the fleets assembling. Miners becoming soldiers. Engineers becoming tacticians. Families becoming cells of resistance. Not because they were commanded to, but because something ancient in their bones demanded it. The Concordat had tried to judge humanity by reading their history, the wars, the mistakes, the darkness. But they had fundamentally misunderstood what they were seeing. Those weren't flaws to be erased. They were lessons. Survival mechanisms. The forge in which humanity had been tempered into something unbreakable. Begin Phase 1, Sienna ordered. Target their observation posts. Nothing lethal, just blind them. Let them know we're coming before they see how. As the transmission ended and the first ships began their silent approach to Concordat space, Sienna whispered to the stars and to the billions of humans listening through bonds that transcended distance. They wanted to erase our story. Instead, they're about to become a chapter in it. Counselor Torvith of the Concordat stood in the crystalline chamber where decisions affecting trillions of lives were made with calm rationality. Today, that calm had shattered. 17 observation posts went dark simultaneously, reported Ambassador Quillix, her 4 eyes flickering with barely concealed panic. No distress signals. No wreckage. They simply stopped transmitting. Torvith's elongated fingers traced patterns on the holographic display, showing vast empty spaces where their surveillance network had been. The Concordat had spent 2 centuries building that network, watching younger species, guiding them away from the violent patterns that humans had perfected. It must be a technological malfunction, offered Prelate Myneth, though his crystalline voice carried doubt. The humans were catalogued as extinct after the Erasure Protocol. We removed every trace of their civilization. Without historical context, they should have devolved into scattered primitives within a generation. Should have, Torvith repeated softly. He had been one of 3 counselors who voted against the erasure. Not out of love for humans, they had been terrifying in their historical records, capable of astonishing cruelty and breathtaking compassion in equal measure, but because Torvith understood something his colleagues didn't. Memory wasn't just data. The chamber doors dilated, and a junior analyst stumbled in, protocol forgotten. Counselors, we're detecting massive coordinated movement in human space. Ships. Hundreds of them. Converging on our border stations. The chamber fell silent. Quillix's scales paled to translucent. That's impossible. They don't have military vessels. We've monitored them for decades, mining ships, colony transports, nothing more. Perhaps, Torvith said quietly, we should have studied human history more carefully before we erased it. They have a tendency to weaponize anything, including ships designed to move rocks and families. Across the void, Captain Jonas Mercer watched the tactical display aboard the converted colony ship Testament. It had been a passenger vessel once, designed to carry hopeful families to new worlds. Now it bristled with makeshift weapons, its hull reinforced with asteroid plating, its cargo bays filled with fighters who had been farmers and teachers 3 weeks ago. All ships report ready, said his tactical officer, a former cargo pilot named Briggs who had learned warfare from memories that predated written language. The Concordat border station is ahead. They're hailing us. Put them through, Jonas ordered. A face appeared on screen, Counselor Torvith, composed despite the crisis. Human vessels, you are entering Concordat sovereign space. This is an act of aggression that will be met with appropriate force. We urge you to reconsider. Jonas studied the alien counselor. In another life, he had been a mediator for colony disputes, someone who believed in words over weapons. But the dreams had shown him truth, that throughout human history, some injustices demanded more than words. Counselor Torvith, Jonas began, his voice carrying the weight of billions. You made a decision. You looked at humanity's history, saw our wars and mistakes, and decided we were too flawed to be remembered. You thought you were making the galaxy safer. We were, Torvith replied. Your species' capacity for violence was matched only by our capacity for redemption, Jonas interrupted. You saw the wars but erased the peacekeepers. You recorded the genocides but deleted the heroes who stopped them. You catalogued our weapons but removed the poetry, the music, the million small acts of kindness that defined us more than any war ever could. Torvith's expression shifted slightly. We acted to protect. You acted to judge, Jonas said, and now his voice carried steel. You appointed yourselves arbiters of which species deserve to be remembered. But here's what you didn't understand, Counselor. You can erase the data. You can destroy the monuments. You can sanitize Earth itself until it looks like we never existed. Jonas leaned forward, and behind him, 300 ships moved in perfect coordination, a coordination that shouldn't have been possible without central command, but was happening anyway, instinctively, as if humanity itself was a single organism remembering how to fight. But you cannot erase what lives in here, Jonas touched his chest. Memory doesn't just live in databases, Counselor. It lives in genes, in instinct, in the fundamental architecture of who we are. You tried to kill humanity's story. Instead, you woke something that had been sleeping, something that our own civilization had almost forgotten we could be. On the Concordat flagship, alarms screamed. Multiple human vessels breaking formation, an officer reported. They're everywhere. How are they moving like that? Torvith watched in growing horror as human ships executed maneuvers that no disconnected fleet should manage. They moved like a school of fish, like a flock of birds, like something organic and ancient responding to threats with millions of years of survival instinct. Stand down your weapons, Torvith commanded his forces. Do not fire. Counselor? Quillix asked in shock. If we fire first, we prove everything they believe about us, Torvith said. And we cannot win this fight. Look at them. They're not fighting with technology or tactics we can counter. They're fighting with something we don't have, the absolute certainty that comes from being erased once and refusing to let it happen again. Jonas watched the Concordat weapons power down. For a moment, he felt the rage that connected every human consciousness demand total destruction. The Concordat had tried to murder them in the worst way possible, by removing their existence from memory itself. But then other memories surfaced. Humans at their best. Humans choosing mercy when vengeance was easier. Humans building instead of destroying. The same species that had created the Holocaust had also created the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The same hands that built atomic bombs also built vaccines that saved millions. Counselor Torvith, Jonas said finally. We're not here to destroy you. We're here to ensure you never forget us again. Every species in this galaxy will know what you tried to do. And they'll know that humanity survived it. He paused, letting the weight settle. But we're also here to show you something you missed when you studied our history. Yes, humans are capable of terrible things. But we're also capable of forgiveness. Not because we're weak, but because we're strong enough to choose it. Jonas gestured to his tactical display. Your observation posts are intact. Your ships are unharmed. We could have started this with violence. We didn't. Remember that when you record this day in your own histories, the day you learned that the species you tried to erase chose to spare you. Torvith felt something he rarely experienced, shame. What do you want from us? Simple, Jonas replied. Restore what you erased. Every database, every record, every monument. And then step back and let the galaxy judge us for themselves, the good and the bad, the light and the shadow. Humanity doesn't need you to curate our story. We'll live it, flaws and all. In the crystalline chamber, Counselor Torvith made a decision that would define the next era of galactic civilization. The Erasure Protocol will be reversed. All human historical records will be restored and distributed to every species in the Concordat. And we will add one more record, of our mistake and what it taught us. He looked directly into the transmission, meeting Jonas's eyes. We tried to erase you because we feared what you had been. But perhaps the greater lesson is what you chose to be when you had every reason for revenge. The human fleet held position for 3 days while the restoration began. Across human space, colonists watched as their history flickered back into existence, the beautiful and the terrible, the shameful and the heroic, all of it restored. Sienna Cross stood on Broken Ridge, watching ancient images of Earth appear on her screens. Cities and civilizations, wars and wonders, billions of human lives lived across thousands of years. Tears streamed down her face, not from sadness, but from recognition. This was her story. Humanity's story. Flawed, complicated, magnificent. On Terrace 9, Dr. Marcus Webb catalogued the returning data with reverent hands, knowing that future generations would learn from these mistakes and these triumphs both. And on the Testament, Captain Jonas Mercer composed a message that would be transmitted to every human settlement across the stars. They tried to judge us by our worst moments and found us wanting. They tried to erase us and learned we cannot be erased. But more importantly, we had the chance to become the monsters they feared, and we chose differently. Let that choice define us more than any war ever could. We are humanity, flawed, persistent, and unbowed. We rise. Always. And we will never be forgotten again. As the human fleet turned toward home, every species in the galaxy received the same historical records the Concordat had tried to destroy. And with them came a new understanding, that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their refusal to be anything less than completely, messily, magnificently human. The Concordat had tried to erase a species. Instead, they had ensured that humanity's story would be told forever, as a warning, as a lesson, and as a promise that some things in the cosmos are simply too stubborn to die.